Brazil mourns legendary Pelé, considered by many around the world as the best football player of all times.
Israel has formed the most hardline government in the history of the state, but critics say it could damage minority rights and deepen tensions with Palestine.
Myanmar's ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been jailed for another 7 years after a military-controlled court finds her guilty of corruption.
Fans have gathered outside the hospital in São Paulo where the king of football died on Thursday. Paying their respects to the legendary player, some wrote banners that read "Eternal King Pelé." Some cried and some others showed their own skills dressed in the yellow and green uniform that he made so famous. To me, Brazil loses its history, a legend. It's very sad. We lost the World Cup and now our king of football. But life moves on. There's nothing we can do. It's in God's hand. Football will have to go on. It cannot stop. But Pelé's memory continues. Pelé didn't die. Edson died. Pelé is still alive. For us here, for everyone. He's still alive. He is eternal. He is immortal. With his big smile and warming attitude, Pelé was adored not only by fans at home, but around the entire world. Treated like royalty wherever he went, the king was arguably the best loved footballer of his or any other generation, the eternal master of the beautiful game.
For many in the world, the Brazilian forward known as Pelé was the finest footballer to ever grace the beautiful game. Wherever he went, thousands of fans would follow, hoping to catch a glimpse of the three-time World Cup winner. There have been other mythic players, such as Argentina's Diego Maradona, but in the end, none of them have been as widely revered as Pelé. He began his senior career at Brazilian side Santos, where he would play for almost 20 years, nearly scoring a goal every game on average. He remains the club's top all-time goal scorer, loved by fans new and old. But it was arguably his international exploits for Brazil that were the most memorable. At the age of 16, Pelé had already made his mark on the international stage, scoring his debut against arch-rivals Argentina in 1957. 1 year later, his skills shone through in the 1958 World Cup, clinching Brazil's first title, which they would successfully defend in 1962. He then led Brazil to an unprecedented third triumph in Mexico in 1970. He remains the only man to have won 3 World Cup titles. Officially, he scored 757 goals in 831 games throughout his 20-year career, although Club Santos claim his tally was closer to 1,000 goals.
90% of the Ukrainian city of Lviv was left without power on Thursday after yet another wave of Russian missile strikes. Air raid sirens sounded over Kyiv again on Thursday night as residents were ordered to shelter from an attack by drones. Hours earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Moscow is driving itself into a dead end. As of this evening, there are power outages in most regions of Ukraine, he said. It is especially difficult in Kyiv and Lviv, Odessa, Kherson, Vinnytsia and Transcarpathia. While 69 Russian rockets targeted energy facilities, Zelensky says the Ukrainian armed forces shot down 54 missiles and overnight destroyed 11 drones. 18 residential buildings were destroyed across the country. In Kyiv alone, 3 private houses were turned to rubble. Moving north, Russia's ally Belarus claims to have shot down an S-300 air defence missile launched from Ukraine's territory. Authorities in Minsk summoned Ukraine's ambassador and have demanded an immediate investigation. If it happens again, Minsk says there could be catastrophic consequences. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was sworn in for a 6th time on Thursday. Together with his ultra-nationalist and ultra-orthodox coalition partners, he is forming the most religious and hardline government in the country's history. Left-leaning critics warn the rights of minorities are on the line, and it could deepen tensions with Palestine. First of all, stop Iran, he said. This is an existential question. We care about existence and security. Second, to restore security and governance within the State of Israel. Third thing, take care of the cost of living and the housing crisis. The fourth thing, and I believe it is also within reach, is to dramatically expand the circle of peace. Israeli settlers in occupied West Bank are satisfied with the new government, while Palestinians have voiced fears. This man says under the upcoming Israeli fascist government, the Palestinian people must unite with one heart. This fascist Israeli government is adept to oppressing and destroying the Palestinian people. While this man says our expectations are that the Torah will be strengthened in the land of Israel, that settlements and governance will grow stronger. These are mainly my expectations. While settlements in the West Bank are considered illegal under international law, the new coalition says, quote, Jewish people have an exclusive and unquestionable right to all areas of the land of Israel.
In the last of a long list of closed trials that have spanned over a year, a military-controlled court in Myanmar has sentenced ousted leader Aung San Suu Kyi to an extra 7 years in jail. She was found guilty on 5 charges of corruption relating to the misuse of state funds for the purchase and lease of a helicopter. The Nobel Peace Laureate has been imprisoned ever since she was forcibly removed as the country's state councillor at the start of the military coup in February last year. Often in solitary confinement, she was charged with multiple crimes that had already racked up to more than 26 years of sentencing. Aung San Suu Kyi's legal team has repeatedly argued she is not guilty. Rights groups have long claimed the array of charges are fabricated to keep the 77-year-old beloved leader detained. Italy has made COVID tests mandatory for all airline passengers arriving from China. The first tests inside Rome's Fiumicino airport have been taken after people arrived on a flight from eastern China. In Milan, more than 50% of arrivals have tested positive for the virus in recent days. Italy has called for EU rules on arrivals from China, where COVID restrictions were scrapped despite a surge in cases. But health officials say the situation there is not likely to affect the bloc. The fashion world has paid tribute to British designer Dame Vivienne Westwood, who melded music and couture together. Dubbed the undisputed queen of British fashion, the 81-year-old died peacefully, surrounded by her family in London. Westwood made her name with her controversial punk and new wave styles in the 1970s and went on to dress some of the biggest stars in the industry. She was also known as a staunch activist and brought cases she cared about, like climate change, to the catwalk.
The Fondation Louis Vuitton is lending its space to 60 energetic and enchanting pieces this winter. The curators are showing the works of 2 giants in the art world, the founder of Impressionism Claude Monet and American abstract painter Joan Mitchell, who were both fascinated by nature and its glorious colours. The retrospective, which fuses Monet's interpretation of landscape with Mitchell's exploration of memory and feeling, is not to be missed. 100 years after the death of Spanish Impressionist Joaquin Sorolla Bastida, the Sorolla Museum, in partnership with the Museum of Fine Arts in Valencia, is celebrating the early days of the painter's career between 1878 and 1884. Renowned for his portraits and his range of social and historical themes, the exhibition treats art lovers to many of his unpublished watercolours, drawings and photographs. Moving to Germany, the Barberini Museum, housed in a former Baroque palace built in 1771 by Frederick II, is hosting its first large-scale international loan exhibition, featuring works from 50 museums and private collections. At the heart of this cultural movement lies the dream world, which fuses the unconscious with the irrational and explores depictions of magic and the occult within surrealist paintings.